Guys, another home run of a pod with Tom Slocum. So I mispronounced it, Tom Slocum. Welcome, Tom, to the pod. Tom is actually founder at the SD Lab. He's been in sales for quite a while, strategic advisor at multiple startups, which I have kind of touched on before, really prominent startups in the sales field. So we're going to talk about sales today. We're going to talk about SDRing and what does it take to be successful nowadays. Tom, welcome to the pod. Sorry for messing up your name. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
You were good, my friend. I am excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm a 16-year sales vet, now turned founder of my own company called the SD Lab, where I'm helping orgs in all things outbound, mainly a GTM motion, helping them build, scale, and create their outbound sales. But ultimately, if they already have one, then we're enhancing and optimizing that and going through a journey together to help them book more meetings. That's ultimately what it comes down to and some of the challenges we've seen in the space. And so it's been a good time, and I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, like what got you started in sales? Because you landed the GoDaddy job pretty quickly, which I guess was an interesting start. Then Yelp, then Infusionsoft. Like these are good companies. How did you scale up so quick?
I started in 2007 in the financial service industry with Discover Card, thanks to my stepmom getting me in when I was in high school and graduating. And really, a lot of the times it was friends, right? I didn't do the typical application process. I wouldn't have to tend to do that whole interview and all of that. When I started making connections, I started meeting folks, then the recruiters would come my way or they'd be referred my way. So that's when I jumped into GoDaddy. I first landed in for-profit education in 2010, thanks to a family, like a friend I worked at this company. We were on like a smoke break having a cigarette, and she recognized my last name and was like, "Hey, is this so and so?" And I was like, "Yep." So she introduced me to her husband, and that's how I landed in for-profit. And I did that for about 3 years. And then from there, I had a friend who was at GoDaddy and was like, "Hey, I can get you in, come over this way," because for-profit was a lot of layoffs. I got laid off 3 times in 3 years and got brought back into the company. So it was wild. So I took off, went to GoDaddy through a friend, and then Yelp was the same thing. I had Yelp friends here in Scottsdale. They were like, "Hey, come be a full sales cycle AE in SMB." And so I jumped there. And then after that, I took the step down from the full sales cycle side of the house, and I discovered my first SDR job. So my friend was like, "Hey, come over here at Infusionsoft. We're building out this SDR squad." So I jumped in there. And then shortly after, I landed at rep.com, helped them build and scale an SDR team from 0 to 30, got into my first true leadership role, helping them build out that entire infrastructure. And then I did it again through getting headhunted and brought over to Milestone because 2 of my account executives had went there. They were getting ready to build an outbound motion. They're like, "You got to talk to Tom." So I joined there, and then now here I am turning founder, right? And doing my own thing, kind of taking the playbook that I've done. But it was all just through friends, referrals, and connecting with people. I'm a social butterfly. I don't have a problem with that. So it's been a crazy ride, some big orgs, and I've been through it all. I've seen it all. And then there's like a lot of in between jobs and some things that I've done. I've worked 3 jobs at one time, but that's just kind of where it all started, was just people knowing people.
Yeah, I'm looking through your LinkedIn posts. How would you describe yourself? Family man, like you're also clearly a fan of rap stuff, and so am I. How would you describe yourself as a human being?
Oh, my number one thing is I wear my heart on my sleeve. I am as authentic as it comes. There is no fluff. There is no BS. There's no any crazy things that come along with me. I am your biggest fan, your biggest cheerleader, and I just authentically wear my heart on my sleeve. It's been my superpower, but it's also been my kryptonite in my career, right? It's one of those things where it has gotten me in trouble, but it has also been the thing that's got me through my entire career, is being authentic, showing up as myself. I am a family man. I have, a wife and 2 kids, and they're my world. And, I love what I do. I just am passionate, and I don't know what it's like to not give 110% to everything I do. And, that's what's helped me build a 16-year career in sales, and take this journey to where now I'm launching my own company, and helping folks and building my own business. And it's all because I led with my heart first. I always showed up, even on those bad days when I didn't want to. And I've been open to growth. I enjoy the journey. I've never really, in the beginning, I was attached to outcomes. Like, don't get me wrong, like I was invested in every phone call. I thought if it went south, I was just awful. But then I learned to really, really take in and understand, just enjoy the journey. Just enjoy it, have fun, master it, learn what you can, and focus on getting 1% better every day. And that's all I do. Is if I can consistently keep trying to get 1% every day, eventually I'm going to reach 99% optimization, hopefully, by the time they put me in the ground. And I can get to, as close to that as possible. But, always growing, always learning, and always leading with giving first before I take.
Yeah, and if it's 1% per day, that's 360% per year times like 90. That's like 2,700% better. I guess that's the goal. We share many of the same motto, and I reflected on that today. That I started my career really serious, like doing 200 phone calls a day, being like heartbroken at the end of the day, with my French accent, being rejected by Alberta, Canada engineers and architects. And nowadays I'm just like all about having fun and sharing that fun. I'm seeing that you're really public on LinkedIn, sharing your life, intertwining both. Do you consider yourself like well, I guess you just told me that you're always like all out and fully transparent. I guess that's your thing. But what about like sharing that with the world? Do you sometimes get negative comments? How do you react to that?
So that's where I struggle. Is I'm not as like public with it. It does take me time. I learned early on in my life to look for signs of being invited to do that kind of stuff before I just go out and bear it all. Because I've gotten jaded. I've had experiences where it just got taken advantage of, or I went out of my way to get invested in something that I was never invited to, right? And so I started learning how to be, wait to be invited, wait to be asked to share those things. And I typically do it 1-to-1 more than I would in the masses, right? Like podcast, or where I do it the most, or when I'm actually talking with somebody. In my content, I do try to strive to be as authentic and, share what's going on. I talk about my founder's journey. And I do that because when you can let people see not just the success, not just the overnight success that they see when you just wake up and here I am 16 years later, I can make a cold call with no problem. I can open my company, but like people think, oh, you're just so lucky. And it's a 15-year journey that I took, and I share that, and I talk about where I've come from, because that lets the next person in line know it's possible for you too, right? It's nothing more than just showing up consistently and showing up as authentic as you can to your values, to your brand, and to yourself. And so that's what I try to do through my content, through my community building, connecting with the people that I have been able to have the privilege of connecting with, like you and others, is just show up as best as I can. There's no song or dance with that. What you see in my content and then you jump on a call with me, they're hand in hand. I'm not trying to tell a lie, influx things, do this whole, oh, everything's just so great all the time. It's like, hey, I get popped in the mouth sometimes too. There's things where it doesn't work out, and here's what I'll share that, but I also try to say, here's what happened and here's what I did to work through that. Not just, oh, I had this happen, and not give any actionable insight into, okay, that happened to you, but like, what did you do? Because I'm experiencing that too. Like, what did you, where were you? How did you overcome that? And kind of share that stuff through what I post online, and kind of the brand that I've built.
Interesting. Yeah, your image is frozen. I don't know why, but to pick up on just what you said, first, LinkedIn, I think it's a blessing and a burden, because you don't get a lot of feedback there. It's all like professional and holly jolly. YouTube, you get like trolls, and Twitter, you get trolls quite a lot. So it's like there's nothing in between. And sometimes I'd wish I'd have a bit more feedback, especially from smart people, right? Because LinkedIn is like professional place. It's like smart brains. YouTube is
Yeah.
like way less IQ elevated, let's call it that way. But I also think that us people that are really heart oriented and put it out there. And by the way, it's weird saying that because I consider myself very IQ oriented, but I also give it my all. And I would sometimes call myself naive, you know. I believe a lot of things and I have been taken advantage of because of that. But we also achieved 2 to 3x in the same way, right? So I think we just need to like push forward and kind of ignore, well, not ignore, take our lessons, but not be too traumatized by them. For example, I had an employee hack through my shit 6 to 7 months ago, and I was really hurt by that, you know, like for quite some time. But I've learned my lessons through it, and I navigated it through it, and yeah, I think it just makes us stronger. And yeah, really honored to talk to folks like you. Humans are like complex creature, right? We're all not one color. We have stories, and depending on the day, you might feel good. Some other day you might feel bad. Some other you might feel stressed. But regarding to all of that, sales, I've always considered it to be very entrepreneurial. And you decided to make the jump probably 10 to 15 years into your career. Explain us why you decided to make that jump and how does it feel so far?
Yeah, so like 15 years in the game, 2007 to 2022, right? Doing this, working for all these companies, and then last year, I was a VP of sales at an SDR boot camp company, and our relationship and contract came to an end, and I was just like, shoot, what do I do next? I didn't have really a next step, but people don't talk about this often, or they always say sales found them, they didn't find sales. But for me, I was committed to sales from a young age. It was just where I wanted to go. I wanted to be the guy in the movies and the sitcoms with the briefcase and being this businessman, traveling the world, reading, being a speaker. And so every job that I ever took, even though they were referrals and stepping stones, they all told a story, right? I was in Discover Card, I learned credit cards and credit score and all of that. I jumped to for-profit education. I learned the importance of not so much the importance, but like what a degree can do for you, how that whole process of education works. Then I jumped into Yelp. I started learning advertising along with GoDaddy and SEO and buying a domain. And then I moved into SDRing and brand management and internet. And it all was stepping stones to learning how to run a business. That was ultimately my goal, is to open my own company someday. And so all these jobs were different layers into that, to where no one can prepare you for opening your own company. But I think I have a leg up doing it for 15 years before I dove in and going through all these different channels and companies to understand what it takes to build a business. I was understanding domains. I was talking to business owners. I was learning advertising. I was learning all these things to where I had a leg up now. And so last year, I decided it was time. I had friends all encouraging me once they found out that I was kind of on the open market. They were like, dude, it's time for you to do your own thing. And honestly, what encouraged that the most and really set that up was getting involved in community in 2020. There's a community out there known as Rev Genius, ran by Jared Robin and crew. And I got into that during COVID time, and I was a director at Milestone. And it was just like, holy crap. Like, I started reaching past just Arizona, right? My state, working at these companies, and just kind of knowing my own inner circles, to building a brand online, getting into a community of, 2,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 community members as it was growing. And I started talking with folks, and I realized I had a wealth of knowledge. I actually have some significant experience and some significant playbooks and insights to things that most don't. And so now I'm able to give that back. And so, when this time came and this community was behind me, and I already kind of had tested this method out in the market, people were hitting me up for, hey, do you do team coaching? Hey, do you do this? Can you help me here? It was just like a no-brainer to jump in. And so now here I am. It's been 8 months as of literally today. Today marks 8 months since I've went public and full time with it. It's had its ups and downs, but it works. It's running. I'm building it, and I'm finding wins, and I'm helping clients. And I think it was just my journey, even though it still didn't prepare me. I am still learning every day. There are still little gaps in there that I got to clean up and adjust, and finding my ICP to refining my messaging to my offer wasn't all right out the gate. My first 30 to 90 days was literally just ripping phone calls and messaging to people and kind of finding out where my product landed or my service landed and what I needed to tweak. But now we're smooth sailing. Things are really, really great. And it was just because of that, through the community and the confidence of these folks and kind of branching out my bubble, I realized I had a leg to stand on. I could do this. And I do have something to offer to these clients that makes sense. And so here we are. And now we're trying to turn it into a viable business that extends, 5-10 years and beyond. It could be a generational thing for my family and my company to be around for a little while.
100%. Yeah, congrats on that. It's a big jump to make, and I think us founders can have a lot of anxiety when starting any new ventures, and it's all going to be fine. Especially as a salesperson, we're so adaptable, we're so resilient and gritty. Nothing can stand in our path. And I still do think that the best CEOs are selling CEOs, by the way, for the record.
Mm-hmm.
I have one last question for you, Tom, because time's running quick here. I've been following your posts on LinkedIn. You get lots of interaction. You're great at content. Any content tips for us salespeople or founders?
Yeah, content's interesting, right? When I first started, I didn't really have a plan. I dove in September of 2020. When I was in the Rev Genius community, I was around other people that were creating content. And I just started, at first, leveraging other people's content as a vehicle. So the things that I was writing on my LinkedIn and posting on my profile were things that were going on from other people's content, events that Rev Genius was doing, or uplifting, other people that were helping me along this journey. And for the first 90 days to 6 months, that's kind of what I did until I found my own voice and my own content that I could kind of share, of where I can actually start writing my own stuff and tips that I have or different things. But when you're creating content, it's what's in it for me, right? You want to stop the scroll. That's the whole point. You got to have a really good hook to get people invested and want to stop, because they're just mindlessly scrolling. They're going to read those first few words. So your hook is really everything, kind of like a subject line in an email. If you're not winning that, you're not going to get people to engage in your content. And the other thing is, give more than you take. The only reason that I have the interaction that I have and the community show up for me is because I go out and earn it. It is not given. You don't just get to show up and create content and act like you have this holy voice for everybody to tune into. You've got to go earn that by pouring yourself into others. And so if you're thinking about building your brand or you're in the midst of it, go engage with others. And I promise you, your likes will start to go up. Your comments will start to go up on your own things, because you're pouring out to the community. You're adding value to their content. You're engaging in what they're putting out. You're sharing it amongst everyone and supporting them. In turn, when you then go to share your thoughts, they're going to come and support yours. And so people don't get that, right? They think they could just start posting and naturally, well, it's a good piece of content. Why isn't it getting 100 likes? It's like, you got to go earn those 100 people. You got to go build that community. And that's where people struggle. Is it takes time, and there's no cheat code to it. You got to give more than you can take, write a really good hook, and then just write things that help the next person behind you, or speak to the pains and goals and challenges of the audience that you're trying to get into. If your audience doesn't know who I am, right? I talk about cold calling, sales development, everything top of the funnel. And every day I'm writing tips, sharing things that I'm doing, all around uplifting the SDR and the account executive space in how to be more human in the way that you prospect, how to have a warm cold call versus a cold call, right? How do you build that relationship, capture attention? And that's what I share, right? And it's my truth. It's stuff that in my career allowed me to have 15 years of it and close, big deals, book, hundreds of meetings a year, and get to the point now where I can role play with you right now on the spot and it doesn't bother me, right? I can have that conversation. So that's what you want to look at when you're building your brand. And those are just a couple tips that I would give if you're looking to dive in and start doing that.
Love it, man. So I have one very last question that got my curiosity up. So strategic advisor, you're that position for many companies, some companies that are like Lydium. How do you get those, and what's the deal here? Like, how should I charge like 1K a month to be an advisor, hop on a call with them like once a month? Like, how do you do that? What's the dynamic here?
So all of those have actually been inbound. I've never went out of my way, it's usually because of the credibility you build within your brand, right? And so I have just been this top of funnel kind of expert and advocate for 2.5 years, that these companies, start gravitating towards me and say, hey, Tom, can we collab together? This tool, this service is really good for your audience. And then on top of that, we could use your assistance, right? We're trying to build this motion out. We want to kind of see what we can do. Here's the deal, right? And we can do a strategic advisory. And so with these 7-8 companies that I'm attached to, I work hand in hand with them, right? And what they do is they build like a board of directors, right? So they'll get this advisory board, and it's really a mix of all the different roles that you would need in your entire go-to-market motion. Now, this isn't like an actual job or consulting or like a contract kind of thing. This is more of just like a brand collaboration and a small level of like advisory. And so
Right.
we meet either once a quarter or monthly. Some I meet with monthly, once a month. Some I meet only once a quarter. We're talking product updates, roadmaps. We're looking at how we can support, all of us together in this motion. And my role is strictly top of funnel. So when they have those concerns, their team needs support, or they're trying to figure out that motion, they'll lean on me. And all vice versa, how do we apply their software or their service to that audience? Where then another friend of mine will be on the board, and they're a marketer and they're doing the marketing stuff, right? And together we collaborate with this org. You get equity. There might be some posting and content collaboration commitments, and then potentially you get like a retainer, right? Not very big. It's not a lucrative deal, but it's something to say, hey, we're aligned, and we support you. Obviously, you're giving us time. So it's really great. I only find brands, I'm not out there trying to grab tons. I'm not trying to take advantage of this. There are some people where they put strategic advisor and they're just like a brand promo person. They'll just make posts and stuff. I try to find people that actually will bring me in house to support them and align with them, and actually be involved in their motion versus, hey, can you just throw it on your LinkedIn and be, post for us a couple of times a month? That's just a brand ambassador, right? That's what you're going to see that term thrown around. That's more like a brand ambassador. They're advocating for the brand. They're doing some social promo, just like you would see on Instagram when, somebody wears jewelry, or, outfits, where strategic advisor is straight up what it is. I'm advising this company. I try to align with companies that I can use their product. Because again, I want to have real life use cases. I really want to talk about how to use the tool, even use it personally in my own sales motion, so that I can, advocate for it and talk to my audience about it, as well as support them. So that's kind of how they've all come about. They've all, been driven to me inbound, companies aligning to me because I've been consistent for 2.5 years. I've built my brand like Kleenex or Coca-Cola, right? You think soda pop, you think Coke, you think of a tissue, you think of Kleenex, you think of sales development or top of the funnel or anything outbound, right? You think Tom, ideally, if you've been in my content and you've been around. So people gravitate towards that, and it's led to some very healthy relationships and partnerships that I'm very, very grateful for.
Nice. Last but not least, can you tell us a bit more about the SD Lab, what you guys do, and where can people find out more about you guys?
Yeah, so SD Lab, the SDLab.com. Find me there, hit me up on LinkedIn. That's where I live and breathe. But, with the SD Lab, what we're doing is, I work with founders, early stage companies like Series A, B, on a level of C in some cases, in helping them, again, with everything outbound. So if you are struggling through your, getting your team to produce, reply rates and build out a function around, process, tech, or your people, right? Come talk to me. I'm sure there's something we can do. I've got 3 packages on my site that you can look at. But yeah, happy to talk with anybody that's trying to do less with more and win in this crazy world of sales that we've seen in the last couple of years now, post COVID, to help your team, drive successfully and repeatably, and be able to scale that motion. That's what you want to, come talk to me about and how I can help you.